Okay, so now before I start this next part, I was reminded to say one thing from the first section of the video, which is that the people who did have cold feet, we sent them all new boots. So we went back in and just sent them a new set and brought their set back for R&D. And of those people we sent new boots to, I think maybe one or two said they still had cold feet. So we sort of surmised that most of the people that had cold feet probably had the manufacturing defect that we talked about in the first video. So that's our take on that. I left that out of the first part of the video. So let's get on to a fun part here. So out of the first year, we sell 5,000 sets. Revenue comes in. I told you earlier, we spent quite a long time developing the first boot, and part of that was the R&D cycle of building these boots was us making R&D changes, sending them off to our factory, the factory then doing a by hand prototype off the line, the main production line, and then sending us the boot back, and then us going through the process of testing the boot, which involved all sorts of things. And to give you a background on the testing that goes into this boot is that we basically set a baseline of what a bunny boot was. So we tested a number of original bunny boots, and we tested them in a lab, in a basic lab, which the mannequin foot. Actually, it's a size 10 left mannequin foot. We'd put it in there. We then subject it to extreme cold. The foot of the mannequin actually sweats, and we then record sort of all the thermal dynamics of the boot, and we create a profile for the boot. We did that for the original bunny boot, and we call that kind of a 1.0. So that's like on a scale, you can think of that as being the original test that we want to beat. And then we started building boots and running the same thermal test, and we were looking for the high, the low, and the mean rating for all the different aspects of the boot, the toe, the foot, the sole, and all of that. And of course, our original bunny boot, the VBX1, tests out at about a 1.08. So if you think about a 1.0 being a bunny boot, ours is theoretically on that test temperature, it says an 8% improvement on the original bunny boot. So that was the way we test them. That took a long time. And a lot of the reasons it took a long time to make the first boot was processes like that. So the first iteration of reshoring these boots is to basically bring that R&D function back. And if you look over here to my right, this is actually where all of the Alaskan bush wheels are made. So these are all vulcanization systems here and a cameraman, if you could show them, I don't know, can they see it? Okay, so this is this is all of our rubber productions that we do for tires. And in here, we've added some new tools here that allow us to actually work on boots. And so from that first year, we're now insourcing and reshoring the R&D phase of the boots, which means we can now make small batch boots here in Alaska. And to do that, we've signed a consulting contract with the factory in China. They're helping train our people on how to do it. Of course, we know how to work with rubber, but there's a lot of nuances to building boots that we have to learn or relearn in the case of the United States in this case. And to give you a little refresher course on it, a couple things here will help show you how this whole process works. Basically, every part of a boot that gets laid out is first cut from a flat. So if you can think about this table over here, this is a computer-controlled table here where we basically put rubber down, we run a code program, and then all the different fabrics get cut. This is like one of the lays of a bunny boot, but they get cut into the right shape so that the producer of it can lay those things out according to the specs to build up a boot. And the way they do that is they have a last, and you can imagine this last sitting in front of the worker, and there's lines on here about where everything's supposed to be, and they come in and layer on all the pieces all around with raw rubber. And then this last then has to be put into a Vulc tank to basically vulcanize the rubber. And that is the big expenditure sort of in bunny boots. This part's relatively expensive. We already run this table for making bush wheels, but then you need this. So folks, this is a Vulc tank. We received it a couple of months ago. It's going through final testing. And if I get this right, I'll be able to show it to you here. This is basically a massive, as a matter of fact, the electricians are working on hooking it up right now and doing final testing, but this is basically a pressure and heat vessel. So you can imagine that once this boot is laid out and it's sort of on, I'm not going to do this kind of pretend here for now, but you can imagine this thing on here. Then this gets suspended in here. You close that front, and then this Vulc tank is pressurized up and heated for a certain period of time, and that's what cures the rubber and makes the boot. So one of the big investments is this very, very expensive Vulc tank. And you can see this is not a production size one. It's really focused on us being able to do small batch testing. And our goal in the next year is to do some more production testing with different types of materials and different rubber lays and things like that, that we'll be able to turn around the process a lot quicker than we could running all the way to the factory in China and back. So we're pretty excited about this machine. And again, we're being trained on it right now. We're going through safety tests and things like that. In addition, if you look at the sole of the boot, this is done with a pressure vulcanization methodology. And if you come over here, this is a pressure vulcanization team. Again, you can see from the size, it's small batch. And the idea here is these are platens and they're heated. And then you basically hydraulically press the rubber into a mold. And that's how you create the sole. And you have to create, obviously, the sole before you build the boot, because the sole gets put on the boot before it gets vulked in the final tank. It's already vulked here, and already cured here, but it gets bonded to the main boot in the main bulk tank. So between these three pieces of equipment, you have the baselines of what it takes to build a bunny boot, not at scale, but the first thing we want to do is basically prove out our abilities here and also prove out our ability to iterate on the design going forward. For 2025 boot, we still did the same process with the factory of doing prototypes back and forth with them and then sending them to the lab for testing results. And in the next part of this video, we're going to show you what's happening in the 2025 boot line and how we addressed some things that we wanted to do in that line. So wait for the next one.